What if I told you that a social media live stream could save your life? Kyler Bruno, a teenage dancer and social media celebrity, was brutally raped by his foster father and his friends during a live stream on August 13, 2024. Just days ago, Kyler Bruno was electrifying his audience with his moves. Now, he's fighting for his life. But how did it come to this? To understand this tragic tale, we must unfold the life of the teenage star before he witnessed that horrific night that landed him in the emergency room. Kyler Bruno wasn't just any ordinary teenager. At 15, he had already amassed a loyal following on TikTok and Instagram, with fans who adored his dance skills, charming personality, and striking looks. His schoolmates called him the Monkey Man. With his stylish blonde hair and lean yet athletic build, Kyler had both the talent and charisma to become a star. But his passion for dancing wasn't just about fame like many believed, it was his escape, his identity, and his greatest love. Kyler's story began in a way many wouldn't expect. He wasn't born into fame or wealth. Instead, he was adopted at the age of 5 by a loving couple who had long dreamed of having a child of their own. Nathan and Rita Bruno had everything. Rita was a stay-at-home mom and Nathan a successful lawyer. They had a beautiful home and a deep love for each other. But the one thing they wanted most, a child, remained just out of reach. After years of failed fertility treatments, the devastating truth was revealed. Nathan was unable to have children. It was Rita who suggested adoption, and though Nathan was hesitant at first, he knew how much his wife longed to be a mother. Then came Kyler. For years, the Bruno household was filled with laughter and love. Rita adored Kyler, showering him with affection, supporting his every dream. Nathan, too, loved him deeply, though there was always something he didn't agree with once it came to Kyle. Clearly, Nathan still longed for a biological child. Despite this, life carried on. The Brunos raised Kyler with care, ensuring he had everything he needed. But there was one thing about Kyler that no one could have predicted, his love for dance. Kyler had always been drawn to movement. Even as a toddler, he would sway to music, copying the dancers he saw on TV. But it wasn't until he saw his first breakdancing performance at a school talent show that something ignited in him. He wanted to dance. By the time he was 10, he was practicing daily. Spinning, flipping, perfecting each move with passion and fluidness. Rita saw the passion in her son's eyes and did everything she could to support him. She enrolled him in dance classes, took him to competitions, and proudly recorded every performance. Then came the social media fame. At 13, Kyler started posting short dance videos. At first, it was just for fun, a way to share his passion. But soon, his videos began gaining popularity. People loved his energy, his style, his effortless ability to move to the beat. By 14, he had over 50,000 followers. Brands reached out, sponsorship deals came in, and suddenly, Kyler Bruno wasn't just a schoolboy who loved dancing, he was an internet sensation. His peers admired him. Teachers praised him. Even local news stations wanted to interview the prodigy dancer from North Carolina. But while his mother beamed with pride, his father grew distant and the relationship between them became strained. Nathan had always envisioned a different future for Kyler. He had dreams of his son becoming a lawyer, following in his footsteps. Dancing is fine for now, Nathan would say, but it won't last forever. You need a real career, Kentucky. But for Kyler, dancing wasn't just a hobby, it was his only talent and for him, it would last forever. Rita tried to mediate, but the gap between father and son widened with each passing day. The more Kyler danced, the more his father withdrew. But still, Kyler pushed forward. His fans were his world, his passion was undeniable, and his mother was his greatest cheerleader. Life seemed perfect, until everything changed. The world would soon see that lawyer Nathan Bruno wasn't against Kyler dancing, but he had a darker hatred for his foster son. A hatred born out of betrayal and secrecy between himself and Rita. Kyler Bruno wasn't just famous for his dancing. He was also known for his closest friend, Sebastian Vega. From the moment they met in middle school, Kyler and Sebastian were inseparable. They had an effortless connection that many admired. They did everything together, attended school, rehearsed routines, filmed TikTok videos, and even completed homework side by side. Sebastian, a broody and athletic boy, was a natural complement to Kyler's fiery, energetic nature. Sebastian was always there, just outside the frame of Kyler's life. If Kyler was recording a dance video, Sebastian was the one adjusting the camera. If Kyler landed a brand deal, Sebastian was the one hyping him up. They spent weekends choreographing new moves in the garage, late nights brainstorming content, and school days laughing like brothers. But the world didn't see it that way. Fans speculated endlessly about their relationship. The way they looked at each other, the way they leaned in during conversations, the way they seemed to share a world of inside jokes, it all fueled rumors that their friendship was something more. Kyler never directly addressed the speculation, and neither did Sebastian. They let people talk, let them assume. In truth, Sebastian had a girlfriend he adored. But keeping their friendship an enigma only made Kyler's brand more alluring. After Kyler's tragic incident, Sebastian would later confess, "We never lied to anyone. We just never corrected them. It kept people interested, so we let them wonder." But while the internet was fascinated by Kyler and Sebastian's mystery, Kyler's father, Nathan, saw only one thing, a son who was embarrassing him. Kyler's father had always been wary of his son's fame, but his growing reputation at school only made things worse. At home, Kyler was just a teenager. He was shy in certain settings, quiet when he wasn't performing. But online, he was larger than life, exuding confidence, fluidity, and raw talent. And his classmates noticed. Some admired him. Some envied him. And some hated him. Rumors swirled around him constantly. Was he actually dating Sebastian? Did he think he was better than everyone else? But then, something changed. His parents announced they were separating just when the bullying started in school. Kyler was devastated. He had always known his parents weren't perfect. They argued, they disagreed, they fought endlessly on some nights, but he never thought they would split. He begged them to tell him why. They didn't give Kyler answers. Rita only vaguely said one day, "We just aren't happy together anymore." But he didn't believe it. He'd seen the fights. The violence between both of them. Sometimes it kept him up at night and other times, Rita had to cover up the bruises with scarves and jackets. His mother, Rita, was heartbroken but determined to keep going. His foster father, Nathan, became distant. And for the first time in his life, Kyler had to make a choice. When Rita moved out of their home, Kyler was faced with the option of living with either parent. Rita, though loving, wasn't financially stable. She struggled with bills, barely keeping up with her own expenses. Nathan, on the other hand, was successful and lived comfortably. Kyler made the logical choice, he moved in with his father. Little did he know that the decision would taint his life forever. At first, life with his father was quiet. Nathan worked late, leaving Kyler alone most evenings. Sebastian often came over to rehearse and dance with him. But Kyler sensed something was off. Nathan suddenly became more attentive, more caring, more concerned with his schoolwork, his friends and his alone time. Weeks after Rita left, he told Sebastian he wasn't allowed in his home anymore. Kyler understood why. Sebastian was a smoker and he believed his father was only saving him from bad company, so he played along, although he still met Sebastian in school. However, Nathan was neither concerned with smoking or wayward behavior. He wanted to isolate Kyler, to break what support he had and ensure he was alone before his sinister game began. And then, one afternoon, everything changed. Kyler had just returned from school, exhausted from an intense dance rehearsal, and then he noticed something unusual: his father wasn't alone. Two men sat in the living room, their eyes lingering on him for too long. Nathan introduced them as Danny and Wilson, his friends from the law firm. Kyler offered a polite nod before heading upstairs, thinking nothing of it. Later that night, they were still there. Kyler went to bed early, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was happening downstairs. Eventually, he drifted off. Until his father woke him up. It was late for a chat, but Nathan stood by his bedside and ordered him to come downstairs. Kyler was confused, thinking he'd gotten into trouble. But he remained obedient. He followed his father down to the dimly lit living room, where Danny and Wilson were waiting. His gut told him something was wrong. And he had no idea that from this night forward, his life would never be the same again. Danny and Wilson, aged 43 and 52 respectively, forced Kyler into submission. He was raped that night, multiple times, and Nathan sat back and watched, telling Kyler that they would send him to college and pay all his bills if he remained obedient. 17-year-old Kyler knew his foster father wasn't broke. He knew that they weren't in debt. So why did he have to be abused by his friends? Weeks after this incident, Kyler didn't show up in school, he missed classes, and eventually his grades became poor. Sebastian tried to find out what had happened with his best friend. He visited their home, but Kyler was never around and his father would always send Sebastian back home. Everyone assumed Kyler was facing family issues due to his parents' separation, but little did they know that it was something most sinister. 4 months later, on July 22, Kyler was transferred from his old school to a small-town school still in South Carolina. He didn't like it there. Suddenly, he stopped dancing. His followers were concerned and his social media family began to worry. This was when Kyler decided to inform his mother about what had been happening. Rita lived a little far off from town and Kyler had their neighbor drive him there. On arrival, Rita was shocked to find Kyler. She welcomed him and Kyler burst into tears. He told Rita what Nathan was doing to him and that he wanted to stay with her. But Rita had moved on. She was with another man now and she refused to take Kyler in. She told him to go back to his father and that she'd beg Nathan to stop. Kyler was shocked. His mother didn't care. She didn't care about him. She only wanted peace in her life. All hope was lost for Kyler and he finally thought of the unthinkable. There was just one way out. To show his vile father to the world. To show everyone what a monster he was and what he'd done to him. A few days had passed since Kyler's last visit to his mother. She held him close, kissed his forehead, and told him everything would be okay. But Kyler knew better. Nothing was going to be okay. He wanted to tell the world about his father, about the strange men who kept showing up. But every time he opened his mouth, the words died in his throat. His father was perfect. He was an upright member of the society, he was a human rights activist and an enforcer of the law. No one would believe him. And that's why Kyler decided to show them. One evening, Kyler arrived home from school, anxious, shaking. He knew what was waiting for him inside. Nathan never checked up on him anymore. He didn't ask about school, didn't comment on Kyler's sudden disappearance from social media, he simply didn't care. All that mattered now were his friends. As Kyler stepped inside that evening, his worst nightmare was staring right at him. There they were, Danny and Wilson, as always. But tonight, there were two new faces. Strangers. Kyler shook in fear. He could feel their eyes on him, watching, sizing him up. Nathan ordered Kyler to go to his room and take a shower. Kyler didn't argue. He turned and climbed the stairs, but the moment he shut his bedroom door, he crumpled onto his bed, buried his face into his pillow and sobbed. He knew what was coming. In a few hours, Nathan would come for him. Just like every other night. But this time, Kyler would be ready. Kyler had built his entire online career on his ability to perform, to captivate an audience. This time, his performance would save his life. He grabbed his phone and took a deep breath. His fingers trembled as he went to his social media page. His fans had seen him dance 1,000 times before, but tonight, they would see something different. He set up a live stream. The viewers started pouring in, excited for another late-night performance. They sent messages, "What's up, Kyler? Yo, another dance collab? Where's Sebastian?" Kyler forced a shaky smile and waved at the camera. His voice was hoarse when he told his fans to stay with him. He held the phone tightly and waited. His heart raced as he heard footsteps outside his door. The handle turned. Nathan invited him downstairs as usual. Kyler swallowed hard and followed him. But this time, it wouldn't end as they planned. Danny, Wilson and the two men were already seated with drinks in hand. Kyler wanted to scream. To run. But instead, he moved like a puppet, playing his role of obedient son just as he always did. Except this time, he wasn't alone. Thousands of fans were watching. At first, they thought it was just another performance. Kyler had always been known for his mesmerizing group routines, maybe this was just another one. But then, Kyler began to struggle as the men tried to force him. Nathan scolded him for disrespecting his friends and slapped him, throwing him on the floor and pulling off his clothes. By the time Kyler revealed that he had his phone on live recording, it was too late. The camera had caught most of their faces and thousands of viewers were watching live. And then the video abruptly. Nathan destroyed his phone and was determined to get rid of him too before the situation escalated. This was the night that would have ended Kyler's life. But what if your social media page was the only thing that could save your life? What if the difference between life and death depended on a single click? What if a routine social media post became the only cry for help that could either keep you alive or leave you dead? That's exactly what happened to Kyler Bruno. A rising internet sensation, a gifted dancer, and a teenager who should have had the world at his feet, Kyler never imagined that the same platform that brought him fame would also expose the nightmare he was living behind closed doors. His fans were horrified at the live stream, and when the video ended abruptly, someone raised alarm. A childhood friend from his former school. He had known Kyler before the fame, before the viral dances, before the world started whispering about his supposed relationship with Sebastian. He knew Kyler as the quiet, awkward boy who was never quite as confident in real life as he was online. And they knew his address. While the rest of the viewers debated in the comments whether it was a joke, a prank or not, the boy called 911. Minutes later, police arrived that night at Nathan Bruno's house. But they were too late. By the time officers stormed the house, Kyler was unconscious. Bruised, broken, bleeding and barely breathing. The evidence of what had been done to him was undeniable. 5 men, including his own father this time, had taken turns violating him, shattering every ounce of safety he had ever known. Nathan had fled the moment he realized that Kyler was unconscious. But 2 of the men, Danny and Wilson, weren't fast enough. They were arrested on the spot. During the investigation, police uncovered an even more chilling truth. Danny and Wilson hadn't just been Nathan's friends. They had been paid to do what they did. Nathan Bruno hadn't needed money. He hadn't been blackmailed. He had done this willingly. Because in his twisted mind, Kyler wouldn't mind it. When Kyler woke up in the hospital the next day, there was only one person by his side, his mother, Rita Bruno. She had been absent for months during his abuse, but now she was the only person left to pick up the shattered pieces of her son's life. When asked why she hadn't taken Kyler with her when she left Nathan, her confession was heartbreaking. Nathan had been extremely abusive. For years, she had suffered in silence, beaten, humiliated, and controlled. She wasn't allowed to work. She wasn't allowed to see her family. Sometimes, he would force her to kneel in their bedroom for hours, watching him sleep. If she angered him, he would deny her the right to bathe for days, threatening to beat her up or worse. She had finally found the courage to leave, but she was terrified that if she took Kyler, Nathan would hunt them down and kill them both. So she left. Not because she wanted to, but she thought she had no choice. She had planned to return once she was strong enough. But by the time she did, it was too late. Her little boy was fighting for his life, broken and molested. As investigators dug deeper, the South Carolina Police Department discovered one more secret that Rita had been keeping. Kyler wasn't really her and Nathan's adopted son. Rita had given birth to Kyler when she was just a high school student. Her grandmother had raised Kyler, and when she and Nathan had eventually decided that the best option was adoption, she brought Kyler home. She never told Nathan. She never planned to. But somehow, he found out. And perhaps, in his sick, twisted mind, this gave him even more reason to destroy Kyler's life. Days after his escape, Rita finally pressed charges. Nathan was caught in a town near South Carolina, hiding at his sister's house. In court, he showed no remorse. When asked if he understood the charges against him, he only responded with, "I did what I had to do." Nathan Bruno was sentenced to 36 years in prison on charges of rape, molestation, and domestic violence. But here's the real question: is 36 years enough? Is 36 years enough for a man who destroyed his own child? A child he swore to love and protect. A man who paid others to help him ruin the life of an innocent boy. Kyler Bruno is still recovering. His body will heal. But will his mind ever overcome the horrors and trauma of those nights? That's something no sentence can fix. And as we hear his story, we are left with questions that are impossible to ignore. Where were the people meant to protect him, and how many more children like Kyler Bruno are out there, hoping and waiting for help. This is not just a crime story. This is a reality for too many. A tale of inhumanity and the very depths of cruelty that exist even within those sworn to protect the innocent.